Hey everyone, it's Saturday morning, August 19th, and for the past few days I've been praying about my next video, about what to share with everyone. And I thought this morning, God sometimes talks to me first thing in the morning, and He reminded me of what I'm about to tell you and wanted me to share this. I feel like this is what God would have me to share. And I actually wrote in a blog about this, so if you are subscribed to my blog, I wrote this a few years ago, but this pertains to 2015, which in my life really was awful. In February of 2015, I got diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and so I had to do a complete hysterectomy. And when they did the hysterectomy, they actually found uterine cancer as well. So I had both ovarian and uterine cancer. My mass was 19 centimeters, which was huge. And so I did the surgery, and then I did 6 rounds of chemo. While I was going through chemo, my grandmother died, my mom's mom, and my dad got diagnosed with colon cancer. And the summer was okay, and then that fall, my husband and I were going to go to Israel for a Holy Land tour with Perry Stone. We paid for it and everything. And in October, he had a surgery to remove a polyp from his sinus. And by the time they got the results back from the infection that was behind there, it had settled into his lungs. In his lungs, that infection that moved to his lungs, it was E. coli, Pseudomonas, and staph. And by the time they had the results back, he had already had some lung infection, and he had a double lung transplant because he had cystic fibrosis. So in 2007 he had a double lung transplant. So he really didn't need to get pneumonia. And while he was in the hospital with pneumonia, my other grandmother died, my dad's dad, and I couldn't act, my dad's mom, and I could not leave because she lived in Mobile, and there was no way I could leave to go to the funeral, because I couldn't leave my husband and then go to the funeral, so I couldn't even take care of that part of my family. And then on Thanksgiving morning, 2015, my husband passed. And it was a very rough time, and the grieving was awful. What I'm about to tell you, the story happened while my husband was still alive. He was in Houston at the hospital, at Methodist Hospital, where he'd had his transplant, and so we really liked the transplant center there and trusted them. And he was just really getting bad and really going downhill. But we believed that God would heal him. We just knew it. And we prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And we often prayed all night long. And we prayed that God would heal him. And he didn't. And a week before Thanksgiving, that Thursday, the doctors agreed to let him come back to our hometown, about 2 hours away, to be here and wait for either to get better or to at least get strong enough where he could have another transplant. And so he was at a rehab center here locally, and he was there for about a week. But on my way home, I couldn't ride with him, of course, in the ambulance, and I was just so tired of him being sick, and so tired of God not answering our prayers, and I was angry with God, and I couldn't understand why God wasn't doing it. So I knew that even if I, followed the ambulance home, I wouldn't be able to see him immediately. And so I was like, you know what? I'm almost to San Antonio, or halfway to San Antonio. I'm going to go stay with my sister for the night. I just need to get away. And so I had decided that I was actually headed out of Houston, eastbound, and I had enough gas to get to our hometown. I just didn't have enough gas to get to San Antonio. And there was a store, if you're familiar with Texas, it's Buc-ee's. I really like Buc-ee's. And there was a store right there that had just finished a couple months before that in Baytown, and they had a good price of gas. And so I was like, you know, I'm going to stop at Buc-ee's and get some gas, because even though I had enough to get to my hometown, I didn't have enough to get to San Antonio. So thought, okay, I'll just gas up. So I pulled in, and immediately after I pull in, I see another car coming, and Buc-ee's is a very busy place because everybody likes Buc-ee's. And so another car pulls in, a white, small car, maybe a Corolla or something. I don't know the make. But I just saw another car, and they parked. They didn't pull up to a gas pump. They just parked into the parking lot. And the girl got out of the car and walked straight to me. And by the time she got to me, I was already pumping my gas. And she was walking to me, and immediately walls go up. Because you have people that approach you at gas stations begging for gas money, and you don't know how much of it's legit and how much of it's not, and you're just like, I don't know what to do, you know. It's like you're just prayerful about, you know, helping people that you know, if they legitimately need help and you can help them, then you want to help them, but you don't want to, like, you know, hurt your, you know, and in a public place like that, I guess it would have been okay, but you know, you don't want to, you don't know what to do. You know, you hear horror stories about, you know, people helping people and then they, like, you know, get shot. You know, so immediately when my walls go up, and she starts walking towards me, and she said to me, she said that she and her husband were trying to get to Georgia to go to her grandmother's funeral, and that all they needed was food. Well, I had food. The whole time Todd was in the hospital in Houston, I needed him to eat. And so I would always order as much food as I could for him, like the snack food that they let him get, and oranges and crackers and peanut butter, and I mean, all this stuff. I was like, he needs to eat. And invariably he was sick, and I knew he needed to eat to get better, but he just didn't want it. And so I had all this food, but when we left, I had already put it in big gallon Ziploc bags and put it in such a fashion that I could give it away to homeless people, because in Houston a lot of times I'll pass right by homeless people, and if I have something like an orange or something in the back where I can give them, I can just give them this orange or give them this peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something, you know. So I had already done that, and I had 2 bags left, and they were filled with oranges and with peanut butter, enough for 2 sandwiches, for peanut butter and bread and jelly, and enough for 2 sandwiches. I think it had candy bars in it. I mean, like, all kinds of food in there, and 2 gallon Ziploc bags, just chock-a-block full, and had like the forks and everything so I made the bag specifically to be able to give to someone, and it had napkins, everything they possibly would need to be able to eat, and it was enough for like 2 or 3 meals, of course, and some snacks. I had like crackers and stuff in it, because I just knew Todd wasn't eating it, and it was food that he liked, not my favorite food. It was like not even a temptation for me. It was like I just put it all in these bags. And so when she walked up to me and she said, "All I need is food," I was like, I have food. And so I gave her everything I had. I was like, I got a big bag of oranges, I've got all this stuff. It was like, she probably could have made it all the way to Georgia and not had to buy another thing to eat. And of course, I didn't have anything to drink for her, but I had plenty of food. I mean, enough food for several days for 2 people. And she looked shocked, and I gave her all this food, and she just walked back to her car, and to the passenger side, and she and her husband, they pulled off. So I was the only person she talked to at Buc-ee's. And I got back in the car, and I was driving through downtown Houston as I went westbound at San Antonio, and I got to thinking, if I had not stopped at Buc-ee's, I didn't need gas to go home. I needed gas to go to San Antonio. And I ended up not even going to San Antonio because I got to one of my favorite stops west of Houston. And that's a different story. Got to one of my favorite stops and stopped at a park and prayed. And the Lord said, Mary made vows. Said, listen, you need to get back to your husband. And so I ended up not even going to San Antonio. But if I had not decided to go to San Antonio, I would not have stopped at Buc-ee's. And if I had not stopped at Buc-ee's, I would not have given her the food that I had, that she needed. And honestly, that was not a blessing for her. That was my blessing. Because in the midst of it, I didn't think that God was hearing me. I didn't think that God even cared. I could not understand why He was making us go through all this. We had been through so much, and I was just tired of it. I never felt God's presence anymore. And it felt like I'd be praying and praying and praying, and I would see nothing happen. And Todd would pray. We'd pray all night long, and nothing would happen. And yet, in that situation, I knew that God heard me, and that God saw me, and that I was in His will, and that it wasn't my fault or His that I could not feel Him or hear Him. I was so clouded with grief and with sorrow that I could not hear His voice. So He reached out to me in a way that I could understand. In this situation, I was able to guide in my footsteps, and I was able to help somebody else that needed help only because He guided my footsteps. And it proved to me that He was there with me, even in the struggle, even in the pain. And He was there. And that was a comfort to me. Now, a week later, exactly a week after that, is when Todd died. And that's a whole other story. But I wanted to just reach out. Maybe someone is watching this, and you're in that situation or a similar situation where you just feel like heavens are brass. God's not listening to me. God doesn't even care. God's not. He's oblivious to me. He hates me. All those thoughts crossed through my mind multiple times. I couldn't understand what was going on and where God was. But in that situation, He proved that He was there, and that He loved me, and that He was guiding my footsteps. And so, if this wasn't for you, then save it, keep it for later, because you might one day, hopefully not, you might one day be in that situation where you wonder where God is. He's with you. And if you're in that situation right now, be comforted. He's with you. He never leaves you or forsakes you. Even if you can't hear Him or see Him or feel His presence, He's with you. And if you are a believer, He's guiding your footsteps. The steps of the righteous man are ordered by the Lord. And even sometimes when in our own human existence, our emotions and our situations get in the midst of our relationship with God, it can wither away our ability to feel Him, temporarily at least. He will never leave you. He's still there with you. Trust in that, and you will feel Him again. Because that was 2015. It's now August of 2017. My husband is in heaven. He's been there since November of 2015. So this fall will be 2 years he's been passed, and I really struggled for a long time. But I can feel His presence again. I know God is with me. And I know that He never left me through all of that. And one way I know that He never left me was through those kinds of situations where even though I couldn't feel His presence, even though I couldn't hear His voice, even though nothing was being done to answer my prayers, my life was still His, and my steps were in His hands. And I want you to know that too. So right now I'm going to pray for you. Father in heaven, I ask that whoever's listening to this, reach out to them and let them know in a way they can understand that you are with them, that you will never leave them or forsake them if they are going through hard times, that the time will end and you are still there and you still love them, and that we will all face terrible times where we don't understand, but no matter what, you are still with us and you still love us and you comfort us. And Father, if they don't know you, I ask that you make yourself known to them in a new and a fresh way, so that they can come to the realization of the truth of Jesus Christ and how He died for our sins. Bring them to a closer relationship with you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in a future date.